Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmaracharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. Good. Be seated, please. Om. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryan Karava Vahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Good. This is working. Good. Nice to see you all this morning as we continue our study of Chapter 11. We're actually coming towards the end. Welcome also to all of our students watching online. We'll begin with some recitation. Sorry. We'll start with verse 47. And as always, as I'm chanting, be sure to read the meaning and then repeat after me. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha, Shri Bhagavanu Vacha, Maya prasannena tavarjunenam, Maya prasannena tavarjunenam, Rupam param darshitam atma yogat, Rupam param darshitam atma yogat, Tejo mayam vishwamanantamadhyam, Tejo mayam vishwamanantamadhyam, Yanme tvaranyena dadrishtapurvam, Yanme tvaranyena nadrishtapurvam, Naveda yajnadhyayanar nadanhar, Naveda yajnadhanhar, Nachakriyabhir natapobhirugraihi, Nachakriyabhir natapobhirugraihi, Evam rupa shakyaham nriloke, Evam rupa shakyaham nriloke, Drashtum tvaranyena kuru pravira, Drashtum tvaranyena kuru pravira, Mate vyatha macha vimudha bhavo, Mate vyatha macha vimudha bhavo, Drishtva rupam ghoram hidrang madedam, Drishtva rupam ghoram hidrang mamedam, Vyapeta bhi pritamana punastvam, Vyapeta bhi pritamana punastvam, Tadeva me rupamiram prapashya, Tadeva me rupamiram prapashya. Sanjayo vacha, Sanjayo vacha, Ityarjunam vasudevastatoktva, Ityarjunam vasudevastatoktva, Swakam rupam darshayamasa bhuyah, Swakam rupam darshayamasa bhuyah, Ashwasayamasa tapitamenam, Ashwasayamasa cha bhitamenam, Bhutva punah saumya vapur mahatma. Bhutva punah saumya vapur mahatma. Arjuna uvacha, Arjuna uvacha. Drishtvedam manusham rupam, Drishtvedam manusham rupam, Tava saumyam janardana, Tava saumyam janardana, Idanim samvrittaha, Idanim samvrittaha, Sacheta prakritam gataha, Sacheta prakritam gataha, Shri Bhagavanu vacha, Shri Bhagavanu vacha. Sudur darshamidam rupam, Sudur darshamidam rupam, Drishtavanasi yanmama, Drishtavanapi manyama, Deva apyasya rupasya, Deva apyasya rupasya, Nityam darshana kangshinaha, Nityam darshana manshinaha. Very good. Okay, I think we will conclude the chapter today. There's not much left, and it's story, but very intense story. Remember, the chapter opened with Arjuna asking for Sri Krishna to reveal his cosmic form. Sri Krishna explains that I can, but you won't be able to see with your ordinary eyes. Sri Krishna then empowers Arjuna with his divya drishti, the ability to see all this. And what he sees crosses a line from, as we said before, crosses the line from awesome to awful. He gets overwhelmed and frightened, especially when he sees all the warriors, all these great warriors on the battlefield, being drawn in to the Lord's many flaming mouths and being consumed by those flaming mouths, representing, of course, the death of those great warriors on the battlefield that is about to take place. All of this happening on the morning of the first of the 18 days of battle. So as we observed before, Arjuna gets a sneak preview, as it were. He gets to see what is going to happen on the battlefield. In response to that, there's one question we'll just take up briefly. And the question is, and Krishna tells Arjuna to be an instrument. And very important statement. Arjuna, you are merely an instrument unfolding this karma, therefore you can get up and fight. The questioner goes on to say this implies that each of our destinies is predetermined. Not correct. Yet we also know we have free will. Correct. Can the use of free will change our destiny in the future, etc., etc.? Well, the problem, of course, is that there's a wrong assumption here. And the wrong assumption is that Sri Krishna implied there's no free will. Sri Krishna implied that our destinies are predetermined when he revealed to Arjuna what will happen in the future. He's merely showing Arjuna what are the karmic consequences to be suffered by everyone on the battlefield, but in no way does that negate free will. After all, it was the free will of everyone on the battlefield that led to this moment in time. It was the free will of Bhishma and Drona and Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana and Yudhishthira. All of them made so many consequential decisions in the weeks and months and years leading up to this battle. And it is the consequence of their collective decisions that is being played out on the battlefield. Decisions means free will. So none of this suggests that everything is predetermined or predestined. That's a really common misunderstanding about the doctrine of karma. And if you don't understand, the point is the doctrine of karma is absolutely against any idea of predestination. And if that's not clear to you, there's a series of 3 or 4 videos I did which explains the doctrine of karma in quite some detail. I would suggest if you're not clear about how karma works and why there's no implication of predestination, if that's not clear to you, you can go ahead and watch those videos. Okay, now to pick up the thread, Arjuna, having become so frightened, seeing all of this, he begs Sri Krishna, please return to your former form, the way you looked before this Vishvarupa revelation. Sri Krishna then, and after Arjuna begs for Sri Krishna, please go back to your prior form, that's where we pick up the thread in today's class. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha, Shri Bhagavanu Vacha, Maya Prasannena Tav Arjunedam, Maya Prasannena Tav Arjunedam, Rupam Param Darshitam Atma Yogat, Rupam Param Darshitam Atma Yogat, Tejo Mayam Vishwamanantamadyam, Tejo Mayam Vishwamanantamadyam, Yan me tvaranyena nadrishtapurvam, Yan me tvaranyena nadrishtapurvam. Sri Bhagavan, the Blessed Lord, Sri Krishna, Uvacha, he said to Arjuna, he said, Arjuna, Maya prasannena tava Arjuna idam. You have to break the words apart. Arjuna, O Arjuna, Maya prasannena, by me being pleased, tava, with you, because I am pleased with you, therefore idam, the last word, next line, idam rupam, this form of mine. What form? This param rupam, the supreme form, this cosmic form of mine, darshitam, has been shown to you, has been revealed to you, Arjuna, atma yogat, with my power. Here yoga means power. Atma simply means one's own. Atma yogat, due to my tremendous power, I have revealed unto you my cosmic form. Why? Tava prasannena, because I am pleased with you. And we'll see more about that in the coming verses. And this form that's been revealed to Arjuna, Sri Krishna describes as, by the way, it's still being displayed. So Sri Krishna at this point continues to be in this cosmic form. Arjuna continues to be frightened, and Sri Krishna continues to describe this cosmic form in the third line as being Tejo Mayam, made of light, shining brilliantly. It is Vishwam, Vishvarupa, cosmic. So it is Vishwam, everywhere. Vishwa literally means all or everywhere. And as we've said before, wherever Arjuna looks, he sees that cosmic form. So don't make the mistake of thinking it's like it's portrayed in literature and art, where that scene is in front of Arjuna. Not like that at all. Arjuna looks up, down, left, right, even behind him. Wherever Arjuna looks, he sees this form, which is anantam, which is limitless, which is adyam, the foremost, the foremost is a good translation. This form which yanme, this form of mine, yet which tvaranyena, except for you, This form is nadrishta purvam. It's never been seen before. Except for you, Arjuna, this form has never been seen before. Now, some people will look at that statement and say, wait a minute. Because Sri Krishna has already revealed his cosmic form in other circumstances. Most notably, he revealed his cosmic form at the palace of Dhritarashtra when he was trying very hard to convince Duryodhana to abandon this plan for the war. So really speaking, he's already revealed his cosmic form and other people have seen it. And then some people will say, wait a minute, he says here, nadrishta purvam, never been seen before. Well, people who make that kind of critical observation are failing to appreciate the fact that this is poetry. And we forget that this is not a literal and historical account of events exactly as they took place. Many people make that conclusion about the whole of the Mahabharata, and it's a wrong conclusion. We call the Mahabharata itihasa, our word for history, but only in a sense that it is based on historical events. It is not a history book. The Mahabharata is not a book on... Our modern concept of history is an accurate and objective account of events exactly as they took place. That's our idea of a history book. That's not the purpose of the Mahabharata. It's poetry. The purpose of poetry is what? To evoke our emotions. And one of the devices used in poetry of all cultures and of all ages, the device is called hyperbole. Hyperbole, many of you know, means deliberate exaggeration. Is a device frequently used in poetry and used here. So when Sri Krishna says no one has never seen this before, it's not that he's telling a lie. He is deliberately exaggerating for emotional effect. And especially to make Arjuna feel very special, right? Except for you, Arjuna. No one has ever seen this before. And my comment, though, is more about people who they're like proofreaders. They're looking and finding what's wrong. This is not a historical document. This is poetry, and it's meant to be read in that spirit. So we can kind of overlook some of these little inconsistencies. It is an inconsistency. I won't deny that. How can you deny that? There was a Vishwarupa prior to this one. So how can Arjuna be the first to see it, or the only one who has seen it? So it is absolutely an inconsistency, but it doesn't cause any. In fact, not only does it cause harm, it's done deliberately. Hyperbole is intentional exaggeration. It's done for emotional effect. Okay, enough said. Naveda yajnadhyaya nadanhayar Naveda yajnadhanhayar na chakriyabhir na tapobhirugraihi na chakriyabhir na tapobhirugraihi evam rupa shakyaham nriloke evam rupa shakyaham nriloke drashtum tvaranyena kuru pravira drashtum tvaranyena kuru pravira. Now, how can, if Sri Krishna just got done saying, except for you, Arjuna, no one can see. So now the question arises, well, how can this be seen? How can anyone else see this Vishwarupa, this revelation of this cosmic form, this divine form. And Sri Krishna says, na Veda, it cannot be seen through the Veda, study of Veda, yajna, performance of Vedic rituals, adhyayana, the recitation of the Vedas. So this Vishwarupa cannot be seen through Vedic study, through the performance of rituals, through the recitation of the Vedas, na danaihi, not through acts of charity, na cha kriyabihi, not through any kind of act or deed or ritual, na tapobihi, nor by acts of penance, ugraihi, very austere penances like fasting. In none of these ways, third line end, nirloke, here in the world, in none of these ways, aham, I, shakyaha, am able, next line, drashtum, to be seen, evam rupaha, in this manner, in this form. In none of these manners, through none of these other spiritual practices, can I be seen, evam rupaha, in this form, tvaranyena, except for you, Kuru Vira, O mightiest of the Kuru lineage, O Arjuna, except for you, you were able to see, but not by means of Vedic study, Vedic chanting, rituals, etc., penances. How was Arjuna able to see? Bhaktya, he's going to say in the next verse, through bhakti, through devotion. And very important that Sri Krishna puts the emphasis now on bhakti. We're coming to the end of chapter 11. Chapter 12 is Bhakti Yoga. And you'll see that Sri Krishna's explanation of bhakti is perhaps different than you might have imagined. We'll leave that to our study of chapter 12. If you think bhakti is mere being all warm and crying and oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, this kind of thing, that is bhakti, no doubt. But that's not how Sri Krishna defines bhakti. So we're going to see that in the next chapter. So Arjuna is told here that it's not possible to witness this divine cosmic form through any other spiritual practices except for bhakti, as we'll see much more in the next chapter. Do we have some grammar students in the class? Look at shakya aham. So shakyaha is an adjective to aham, I. I am shakyaha, able. Na shakyaha, I am not able, drashtum, I am not able to be seen. Shakyaha followed by aham. Some of you know the sandhi that should take place. Saha followed by aham becomes soham. Shakyaha followed by aham should become shakyoham. This is grammatically incorrect. Should we give Krishna some wrong marks? Well, first of all, Sri Krishna is not on the battlefield speaking to Arjuna in verse, right? So these are verses composed by Vyasa. So does Vyasa get the bad marks? Not at all. There is an exception to grammar rules, especially to rules of sandhi. Actually, let me not say not grammar rules in general, but the rules of sandhi. Sandhi means the rules that cause change of pronunciation and change of spelling where two words join together. It's one of the distinctive attributes of the Sanskrit language. The rules are quite complex, and those rules come up all the time. And those rules have to be followed except in certain situations called metrical license. Metrical license means you are given license, you're given the freedom to ignore certain grammar rules, Sandhi rules, if it's necessary for the sake of maintaining proper meter. So the meter of these verses is Trishtubh Chandas. There's 11 syllables per quarter, certain pattern of short and long syllables. In order to maintain that meter, Vyasa has permission to bend the grammar rules, which he's done here, and he does once more before the chapter's over. We'll observe that. So Vyasa doesn't get any negative marks, in fact, only positive marks for this wonderful work of literature. Continuing. Ma te vyatha ma cha vimudha bhavo, ma te vyatha ma cha vimudha bhavo, drishtva rupam ghoram idring mamedam, drishtva rupam ghoram idring madedam, vyapeta bhi prita manah punastvam, vyapeta bhi prita manah punastvam, tadeva me rupamidam prapashya, tadeva me rupamidam prapashya. So remember, Sri Krishna is still in his cosmic form. Arjuna is still trembling. And Sri Krishna says now, Ma te vyatha. You need not, let there not be any more trembling, vyatha, anxiety for you. You need not be troubled, you need not be anxious. Macha vimudha bhavaha. Let there not be any more. Vimudha bhava is being overwhelmed. Arjuna has been absolutely overwhelmed by this experience. May you not be trembling because of what you've seen. May you not be overcome or bewildered by what you've seen. Drishtva, having seen, second line, having seen, idam mama rupam, connecting the words, having seen idam rupam, this form, mama, of mine, this form of mine, idring ghoram, which is so terrible, so frightening. Idrik, that much, that this sight of me, which is so incredibly frightening, you need not worry, you need not tremble. He continues, vyapeta bhihi. Be free from fear. Prita manaha. May your mind be at ease. May your mind be pleasant. Punaha, now, tvam, you, prapashya, in the last line. Now you, Arjuna, please prapashya, please see. Dekho, you would say. Please see. Please see. Idam rupam me, this form of mine, which is tadeva, which is like that. Like that means the form that Arjuna requested, the form in which Sri Krishna appeared prior to this Vishvarupa revelation. So Sri Krishna assures Arjuna, you need not tremble, you need not be afraid, relax. What did he say? Chill. He spoke American English. And then Sri Krishna promises Arjuna, now, please see me back in my prior form. At which point, the scene shifts from the battlefield back to the palace, where Sanjaya is narrating all this to the blind king, Dhritarashtra. Sanjayo vacha, ityarjunam vasudevastatoktva, ityarjunam vasudevastatoktva, swakam rupam darshayamasa bhuyaha, swakam rupam darshayamasa bhuyaha, Ashwasayamasa cha bhitamenam. Ashwasayamasa cha bhitamenam. Bhutva punah saumya vapur mahatma. Bhutva punah saumya vapur mahatma. Sanjaya narrates this to the blind king Dhritarashtra. He says, see, buried in the first line, tata, in that manner, Vasudevaha, name for Shri Krishna, tata uktva, having spoken thus, Arjunam, to Arjuna, iti, in this way, in this manner. So Arjuna, Shri Krishna having spoken thus to Arjuna, what did Shri Krishna do? Swakam rupam, his own form, his prior form, darshayamasa, he revealed, he showed to Arjuna, bhuyaha, once again. So he returns to his prior form. Ashwasayamasa cha bhitamenam cha, and bhitam enam bhitam, this frightened one, Arjuna, Sri Krishna did what? Ashwasayamasa. What a mouthful. These, in fact, in grammar, these are called paraphrastic perfect. Paraphrastic means expressions which are wandering around. Expressions which are full of too many syllables. And we see two of them here, darshayamasa, ashwasayamasa. For our grammar students, these paraphrastic perfects happen much more often in Puranas, less often in the Mahabharata, but here we see two of them, nicely. So, Sri Krishna ashwasayamasa, he comforts the frightened one, Arjuna, and bhutva, that end of the verse, Mahatma, that great one, Sri Krishna, punaha bhutva, once again, bhutva became his saumya vapuhu, vapu body, saumya, pleasing. So he returned to his pleasing form. His body returned to its prior form. So Arjuna can finally take a deep breath. You can almost hear Arjuna sigh with relief here. And Sanjaya continues narrating as Arjuna says, Arjuna uvacha, Arjuna uvacha, Drishtvedam manusham rupam, Drishtvedam manusham rupam, Tava saumyam janardana, Tava saumyam janardana, Idanim asmi samvrittaha, Idanim asmi samvrittaha, Sacheta prakritam gataha, Sacheta prakritam gataha. Notice the meter changed back because Sri Krishna changed back. That long meter came when Sri Krishna revealed his cosmic form, and as soon as Sri Krishna goes back to his prior form, the meter reverts. We've observed many times that that longer meter is used for dramatic effect, and certainly has a very powerful dramatic effect here. So Arjuna, having breathed that huge sigh of relief, Arjuna says, Drishtva, having seen, idam manusham rupam, this human form, tava, of yours, having seen this human form of yours, which is saumyam, which is pleasing, which is gentle, which is nice to look at. Janardana, O Krishna, idanim, now, asmi, Arjuna says, I am samvrittaha, I am composed, I am sachetaha, I am literally, his mind is restored. He's come back to his senses, we say in English. In fact, that's exactly what this expression means. Prakritam gataha. He has returned to his normal condition. He's returned to his senses. His clarity of mind has returned. All of that anxiety and fear has been removed from Arjuna. He takes a deep breath. Aham asmi samvrittaha. I am once again composed, having seen your pleasant human form. And Sri Krishna now concludes the chapter with some closing verses. He says, Shri Bhagavanu Vacha, Shri Bhagavanu Vacha, Sudur Darshamidam Rupam, Sudur Darshamidam Rupam, Drishtavanasi Yanmama, Drishtavanasi Yanmama, Devahapyasya Rupasya, Devahapyasya Rupasya, Nityam Darshana Kangshinaha, Nityam Darshana Kangshinaha. Idam Rupam, this form, which is Sudur Darsham. He's referring now, when he says this form, not his current form, but the form which he has revealed to Arjuna, his Vishvarupa, his cosmic form. That cosmic form is Sudur Darsham. Dur Darsham, difficult to see. By the way, Durdarsha, the TV channel, Durdarsha means also to see far. What Durdarsha means is to see far. It becomes a name then for television in general. But that which is difficult to see is the literal meaning of Durdarsha. So this is not difficult to see, it is Durdarsha, extremely difficult to see. But Arjuna, Drishtavanasi, you have seen Yanmama. This form of mine which is so difficult to see, you have been blessed to see it. In the third line, api, you can see api asya api. Even devaha, even the gods in heaven, asya rupasya, for this divine cosmic form, even those gods in heaven, darshana kangshinaha, are longing to see that form. Nityam, they're constantly longing to see that form, but Arjuna, you have seen it. Again, hyperbole, intentional exaggeration. Nice. I mean, that's what makes a story. I mean, how boring it would be if none of this poetic intensity were removed from the Mahabharata. This could actually be an extremely boring chapter. Arjuna sees the cosmic form, he gets frightened, Sri Krishna goes back, and it's over. That's chapter 11. Pretty boring in the way I would teach it, but the way Vyasa presents it here is just filled with excitement and drama. Then, Naham Vedarna Tapasa, Naham Vedarna Tapasa, Nadanena Chachejaya, Nadanena Chachejaya, Shakya Heva Vidho Drashtum, Shakya Heva Vidho Drashtum, Drishtavanasi Mam Yatha, Drishtavanasi Mam Yatha. So, he goes back to how can this be seen? Even the gods in heaven aren't able to see this Vishvarupa, this cosmic form. How can it be seen? And echoing a verse Sri Krishna said before, he echoes it here. The verse 48 we saw, where Sri Krishna says you can't see this through Vedic study, not through rituals, not through Vedic recitation. He says almost the same thing here in the shorter meter. He says, aham, I. Actually, you have to make the sentence, you have to go all the way down. Aham na drashtum shaki. We'll get there. We'll see that. Na vedaihi. How can Sri Krishna be seen? Na vedaihi. Not through the Vedas. Na tapasa. not through the performance of austerities like fasting. Na danena, not through acts of charity. Na cha ijaya, through offerings, ritual offering. Ijaya, through fire sacrifice, in which you offer things into a ritual fire. In none of those ways, aham, from the first line, aham shakyaha, in the third line, drashtum, am I able to be seen? In none of these ways am I able to be seen. How? Evam vidaha, in this manner. In what manner? Last word, yatha, in a manner such as, yatha, as, drishtavanasi mam, in a manner that drishtavanasi, that you saw mam, me. Not through the Vedas, through penance, through charity or penances or sacrifice. In none of those ways is it possible to see me in this manner, in this cosmic form, in the way that you have seen, Arjuna. Drishtavanasi, in the way that you have seen, mam, me. Then, if you can't see Sri Krishna's cosmic form in all those ways, then how will you see? We saw the answer before. Bhaktya, through devotion, and Sri Krishna makes it very clear right now. Bhaktya tvananyaya shakyaha, bhaktya tvananyaya shakya, ahamevam vidorjuna, ahamevam vidorjuna, jnatum drashtum cha tatvena, jnatum drashtum cha tatvena, praveshtum cha parantapa, praveshtum cha parantapa. Bhaktya tu, that word tu disappears. Tu ananyaya. There's those Sandhi rules I talked about, the change of pronunciation where words meet. Tu, but bhaktya, through bhakti. What kind of bhakti? Ananyaya bhaktya. Through bhakti, which is ananya. Ananya meaning having no other. Single-pointed. Through single-pointed bhakti, devotion, shakyaha aham, I am able, third line, jnatum, to be known, drashtum cha, and seen, tatvena, in reality, back up, evam vidaha, in this way, in the way that you have seen, O Arjuna, in this way, through bhakti, shakyaham. By the way, same grammar, same exception to the grammar rules, exactly the same two words. Shakyaha, aham, should become shakyoham, but with a metrical license, Vyasa preserves the meter and says shakyaham. So what's being said here, I'll paraphrase and then show you something very interesting in the last line. To paraphrase, Sri Krishna says here, Arjuna, you can't, no one, it is not possible for anyone to see me through ordinary religious and spiritual practices, but, that too, but through ananya bhakti, through single-minded devotion, focused devotion, Sri Krishna says it is possible, shakyaha, it is possible, drashtum, to see me, tatvena, in reality, and to jnatum, to know me, tatvena, in reality. So the emphasis here is on bhakti, and as I said, that's introducing the next chapter, chapter 12. This is the second last, this is the penultimate verse of this chapter. So we're just now coming to the end. Sri Krishna is going to talk extensively about bhakti in the next chapter. But he sneaks something in the end here, very surprising. He says, through this focused, single-pointed devotion, Sri Krishna says it is possible to jnatum tattvena, to know me in reality, drashtum tattvena, to see me in reality, and he adds one more word here, praveshtum cha, and to enter me. Parantapa, O Mighty One, O Arjuna. He gives these three, they're called infinitives. Jnatum, to know me, drashtum, to see me, and praveshtum, literally, to enter me. What does he mean? Well, this is not a text which is merely on devotion. This is, the Bhagavad Gita is a text on Vedanta, spiritual wisdom. And here, Sri Krishna makes a very clear reference to the fact that the ultimate goal of spiritual life is not merely, let me use some language here. The purpose of life is not to witness the revelation of Sri Krishna's cosmic form. That would be a wrong conclusion to make here. Why? Because suppose you were somehow blessed to see this Vishvarupa. Suppose a good example maybe in a dream. In a dream, Sri Krishna comes to you and reveals his cosmic form. How wonderful! Absolutely glorious! And then you wake up and it's over. Even for Arjuna, it's over. Whoever is blessed to see that Vishvarupa, that cosmic form, they witness it, they are blessed, they are overwhelmed, and then it's over. So that's why Sri Krishna adds that word, praveshtum, because it's not merely drashtum, it's not merely seeing, but he adds jnatum, knowing, and praveshtum, entering. So this whole chapter is on darshana, seeing, drashtum. But in addition, so here at the very end of the chapter, after this Vishvarupa has been revealed and then withdrawn, Sri Krishna adds, in addition to drashtum, seeing this cosmic form, Sri Krishna adds these two critical words, jnatum, to know, and praveshtum, to enter. We'll see this much more in the chapter on bhakti, but Sri Krishna is making it very clear that the goal is not a transient spiritual experience. Those experiences are wonderful. If you are a well-practiced meditator, you can have any number of wonderful experiences. Those experiences are extreme, they're inspiring, they're helpful, but they all come to an end. No matter how intense and glorious a spiritual experience can be, it comes to an end. So, experience is not enough. Sri Krishna adds these two words, jnatum and praveshtum, to know and to enter. So not merely experiencing, but also knowing who is Ishvara, who is Bhagavan, and finally, praveshtum, to enter. How do you enter Bhagavan? By knowing, and here's We don't have time for a huge Vedanta lecture here at the end of the class, but to put it in very simple terms, to enter Ishvara, to enter Sri Krishna, means to know that the reality because of which Sri Krishna exists and the reality because of which you exist are one and the same reality. I'll say that again. When you know that the reality because of which Sri Krishna exists and the reality because of which you exist are one and the same reality. That recognition, or to use other language, we've observed so many times about how your fundamental nature is as a conscious being. Consciousness means that by which you know what's happening right now, that consciousness. The consciousness by which you know what's happening right now is identical to Sri Krishna's consciousness. Think about it. The consciousness by which you know what's happening right now is identical to Sri Krishna's consciousness. That recognition, and to make that recognition, we require all these teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. We require a lot to come to that level of understanding. With that level of understanding, you come to recognize your non-separateness, the absence of division, the absence of distance. So to enter, it's a little bit metaphorical. It's not that you enter or merge, but rather you recognize that you've never been separate. So it's said here to enter, but that enter is a metaphorical entering. It's more of a recognition that you have never been separate from Ishvara. There has never been any distance between you and the God of the cosmos. The recognition of your non-separation, the recognition of non-division, the recognition of Advaita, not two. This is Advaita. This is what non-duality means, to recognize your non-separateness. That non-separateness is an already existent fact. You are already non-separate, which is why your true nature is divine. But that true nature may not be fully recognized. Your non-separateness might not be fully recognized, which is why that so-called veil of ignorance has been removed, which is why there's so much emphasis on jnanam, on spiritual wisdom, on the immediate, direct recognition of your true nature as Satchidananda Atma, that Satchidananda Atma being utterly non-separate from Ishvara. And we'll see that in the next chapter. So very interesting that Sri Krishna says not only to drashtum tatvena, not only to see me in reality, but also jnatum tatvena, to know me in reality, and to praveshtum, to enter me, means to recognize your non-separation from Sri Krishna. We come to the last verse. Mat karma krin mat paramo, mat karma krin mat paramo, mad bhakta sangha varjitaha, mad bhakta sangha varjitaha, nirvaira sarva bhuteshu, nirvaira sarva bhuteshu, yasamameti pandava, yasamaneti pandava. Now, we're not talking about who, let me introduce the verse properly. Who can witness this cosmic form? Those who have ananya bhakti. this extraordinary, single-pointed, focused devotion. But what Sri Krishna ends the chapter with is not those who can witness that cosmic form, but rather who can gain the Sagnatum and Praveshtum, who can know Sri Krishna, who can enter into Sri Krishna. So even though the chapter opened with this Vishvarupa, we're not ending with Vishvarupa. We're ending instead, not who can witness the Vishvarupa, who can know who is Ishvara, who can enter into Ishvara, figuratively speaking, who can recognize their true nature as being utterly non-separate from Ishvara. That's how Sri Krishna concludes the chapter. Who can gain knowledge of Ishvara? Who can become enlightened? Who? Mat karma krit. One who performs actions for my sake. Mat karma krit. To act for Sri Krishna's sake, we're back to karma yoga, the topic we started in chapters 2 and 3. So mat karma krit, one who acts for my sake, one who acts with this attitude of karma yoga, one who overcomes raga dvesha and follows dharma, offering their actions unto the Lord, so to speak. Such a person can gain this knowledge of Ishvara and become enlightened. That person who is not merely mat karma krit, not merely one who performs karma yoga, but one who is mat paramaha, one who is focused exclusively on mat. Mat is a pronoun form of me. One who is focused on me, dedicated to me, one who is focused on seeking me, one who is mad bhaktaha, devoted to me, obviously. One who is devoted to me, one who is sangha varjitaha, one who is free from attachment, no distractions. One who is exclusively devoted to me and to nothing else. Nothing else means nothing else. You might be wondering, wait a minute, how can I live my life? How can I take care of my family? We've had this discussion before. Taking care of your family is karma yoga. Taking care of your family is serving Ishvara. Where's the conflict? There's no conflict at all. If you really understand karma yoga, just a quick comment here. Karma yoga is perhaps the most predominant topic in the whole Bhagavad Gita. It's the most discussed topic in the whole Bhagavad Gita, and it's the least understood topic in the whole Bhagavad Gita. To recognize Ishvara in the form of your spouse, Ishvara in the form of your children, Ishvara in the form of your parents, and serve them. Ishvara in the form of your boss, no problem. Ishvara in the form of your irritating neighbor. Ishvara in all these forms. When you recognize Ishvara in all these forms, then you are mat karma krit, one who acts devoted to Ishvara. You are mat paramaha, focused on Ishvara, mad bhaktaha, and devoted to Ishvara, being sangha vivarjita, being free from any other attachment, being free from distractions. The person who is nirvairaha, free from ill feelings, sarva bhuteshu, towards all creatures. Free from ill feelings towards all creatures. Why? All creatures are manifestations of Ishvara, including your boss, including your irritating neighbor. In fact, especially your boss, And especially your irritating neighbor, to recognize these are also manifestations of divinity. That's what Sri Krishna says here, and he concludes, Yaha Saha, one who is such, Mam Eti, reaches me. Pandava, O Arjuna, one such reaches me. Notice he used the word eti, to reach, same as praveshtum, to enter. Notice he doesn't say, one such can see my cosmic form. That's not how he ends the chapter. He says, through proper spiritual practice, especially karma yoga, but not only karma yoga, but through the practice of karma yoga, you can eventually recognize your true nature as being utterly non-separate from Ishvara. And by the way, if your true nature is non-separate from Ishvara, the same holds true for your spouse's true nature, your children's true nature, your boss's true nature, and your irritating neighbor's true nature, to recognize all as being a divine manifestation. With that recognition, Sri Krishna says, Mam Eti, you reach me. And with this, we conclude this wonderful chapter 11, Vishwarupa Darshana. A nice way to end our study, as we've done for all the other chapters, is we'll end by reciting the English version that I composed. It's abbreviated, so it's fairly short, and it'll allow us to see the whole of the chapter quite briefly. First verse you can listen and repeat to remember the chanting style, and then the rest of the verses we'll chant together. Repeat after me. Arjuna said, to indulge me you have revealed. To indulge me you have revealed the highest secret of yourself. The highest secret of yourself, and by these words you have now said, and by these words you have now said, my confusion has been removed, my confusion has been removed. Chant with me now. Now if you think it possible for me to see your godly form, O Lord, then unto me reveal your own true everlasting form. The blessed Lord said, O Arjuna, behold my forms in the hundreds and thousands yet, multifarious, heavenly, of all colors and of all shapes. Behold now the entire world, animate and inanimate, and all else that you wish to see here within this body of mine. But to see me you have no power, your own eyesight is limited. I grant you a vision divine. Now behold my majestic might. Sanjaya said, O king, after he spoke these words, Shri Krishna, Lord of yogic power, revealed himself to Arjuna, showing his cosmic form supreme. If in the sky 1,000 suns were to rise simultaneously, such would be like the blazing light of the Lord's great magnificence. Arjuna, whose hair stood on end, by amazement was overcome. He bowed his head in reverence and prayerfully addressed the Lord. Arjuna said, O Lord of all universal form, thy immense vastness I behold. Countless arms, eyes, bellies, and mouths, glaring so bright it hurts my eyes. I see no start, middle, or end. The sun and moon are thy two eyes. Thy flaming mouths devour the worlds, destroying them with scorching heat. From the heavens down to the earth, thy expanse fills the space between. Seeing this dreadful form of thine, all worlds tremble, and so do I. Seeing thy mouths with gaping teeth, blazing like world-destroying fire, I feel bewildered, terrified. O Lord, show mercy unto me. Into thy mouths, Dhritarashtra's sons, enter along with throngs of kings, Bhishma, Drona, and Karna too, even our own great warrior chiefs. They quickly race into thy mouths, gaping with ghastly, dreadful teeth. Some men whose heads are crushed remain, sticking out caught between thy teeth, like rivers flowing to the sea, or like moths drawn to glowing fire. So to these most courageous men rush to enter thy flaming mouths. Tell me, who art thou, dreadful one? Salutations, have mercy, Lord. I want to comprehend thy truth, but thy ways I don't understand. The blessed Lord said, I am time, destroyer of worlds. I came to decimate these men, all these warriors standing opposed. Even without you they shall die. Therefore stand up, be valorous. Conquer these foes, dominion gain. I have already slain them all. You are merely an instrument. Sanjaya said, having thus heard Lord Krishna's words, Arjuna, trembling with fright, folded his hands and bowed again. Then he spoke, stammering in awe. Arjuna said, Thou art primal, eternal God, in whom the universe abides, supreme abode, knower and known. Thou pervades the entire world. Salutations, salutations, in the thousands, homage to thee, infinite power, measureless might. Thou art total, embracing all. Brashly I took thee as a friend, behaving disrespectfully, ignorant of thy majesty. For that I beg pardon of thee, with my prostrations bowing low. Thy indulgence I beg of thee. Please do be merciful, O Lord, like a father or like a friend. My mind reels from terror and fright, shaken by this fantastic sight. I wish to see thee as before. Please return to thy prior form. The blessed Lord said, being pleased with you, I have shown through my own power this form supreme. brilliant, vast, limitless, foremost, but for you never seen before. Do not tremble, be not confused, seeing my most terrible form. Be of cheer again, free from fear. Behold now my form as it was. Sanjaya said, Lord Krishna, after speaking thus, reappeared in his prior form, having assumed a pleasant guise. He comforted the frightened one. Arjuna said, O Krishna, seeing once again this pleasing human form of yours, my composure has now returned. Restored to normal is my mind. The blessed Lord said, this form which you have now beheld is very rare to see indeed. To behold it, even the gods are all yearning eternally, not by study or discipline, nor charity or sacrifice, can I ever be thus perceived in the way you have now beheld. But through devotion firm and strong can I in my reality be discovered just as I am and be attained, O Arjuna. There we have the last verse. Last verse is missing here on my computer, but you can see it on the screen. Nice. Even in English, it's a powerful chapter. If it's that powerful in English, it is so much more powerful in the original Sanskrit. It's just absolutely amazing. Really happy we could study this together. Next week, we will begin our study of chapter 12, Bhakti Yoga. Also, I mentioned that each week we're publishing a new chapter of the videos I've produced, the dramatic reenactment of the Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 7 was published last week. In this coming week, we'll publish chapter 8. You can watch that. And I'm very happy to announce that it's time for us to resume some of the classes that have been on hiatus because of the pandemic. In 2 weeks, we'll resume some classes. One class we'll resume is our guided meditation. Many of you have asked for the guided meditation. So we'll do it as we did before, prior to the Bhagavad Gita class. So at 10 o'clock, we'll have a Bhagavad Gita class, and then after just a few minute break, then we'll continue. I'm sorry. At 10 o'clock, we'll have the guided meditation. I misspoke. And then after a few minute break, then we'll resume the Bhagavad Gita study, starting in 2 weeks. And also starting not on that Saturday, but the following Tuesday, we want to resume our Tuesday evening Vedanta classes. And we'll do that in a couple of weeks. We'll take up a text of Shankaracharya. I'll give you all the details next week. I'll give you all the details. And I'm really happy that we can resume some of the classes. The pandemic is slowly grinding to an end, and eventually it'll be behind us completely. Not quite yet, but now that it's winding down, we can definitely resume some of these classes. Finally, I want to thank the volunteers who have been staying back after each class to help Jim with some of the maintenance tasks around the ashram. It's a great help. Thank you very much. If you'd like to help with some of these maintenance tasks, you can stay back and you can meet with Jim after class and he'll give you some guidance. Okay, we'll conclude with our brief prayers. Very good. Om Gananahan Tva Ganapatigam Avamahe Kaving Gavinam Upamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspataha Nashrinvan Utabasida Sadhanam Om Mahaganapataye Namaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramhanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschad Duhka Bhag Bhavet Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Amritangamaya Om Shanti 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 Om Tat Sat.